December 1887, Montana Territory. Talib McCord was $2.40 in his saddlebag, 5 bullets in his coat, and a burn scar on his right hand that never stopped aching. 37 years old, former Texas Ranger. Current, nothing, just a shape on a horse moving through snow, heading nowhere in particular, caring about nothing at all. Scout, his old bay gelding, trudged with his head low. He'd looked through her like she was made of glass and kept walking. He'd dug through the ruins with his bare hands, found what was left of them. The heat of the embers seared his right palm, melted skin to bone. That was the rule, the only rule. Don't stay, don't care, don't feel. 13 years old, coat too thin, face white, arms shaking from the weight. The baby wasn't moving. Behind her, a boy of 11 gripped an axe with both hands, feet planted wide, jaw set like he was ready to swing it at anything that came close. A girl of 8 clutched a brown and white dog against her chest. The dog was barking sharp, frantic, desperate, and in front of them all, the smallest boy, 5 years old, barefoot in the snow, shaking so hard his bones rattled. He lunged at Caleb's horse before Caleb could react, grabbed the boot in the stirrup, locked both hands around Caleb's leg, and screamed, "Sir, help us! Mama's bleeding! Mama won't wake up! Please, sir, please!" Brown eyes too big for his face, filled with something that punched Caleb in the chest so hard he lost his breath. "Mama's on the floor," the boy whispered. "There's blood on her head." The steadiness of someone who'd learned to swallow panic because there was nobody else to be calm. "My name's Lucy Calloway. I've been taking care of this family since my papa died 2 winters back. I can handle most things, but I can't carry a baby who might be dying and drag 4 children through a snowstorm and stop my mama's bleeding all at the same time." Her voice cracked on the last word, just barely. She caught it, shoved it back down, stood straight. "Our ranch is a 1/4 mile up that hill. If you won't help, say so, and ride on. We'll manage. We always manage. You can't handle everything just because Papa told you to watch over us. Papa didn't mean for you to kill yourself trying. Are you a good person?" Caleb stared at her. "No, not ain't true," she said. At Jack holding an axe he could barely lift, at Lucy with a baby who might be dead on her hip. He thought about riding away. "Just help my mama, please." Talib stopped. Used to hold on and say, "Papa, don't leave again, stay with me." He'd always left, always had a job, a mission, a badge that mattered more than staying. And then she was gone. And staying was all he'd wanted since. "Where's this ranch?" Caleb heard his voice say. Even now, exhausted, terrified, Caleb pressed his ear to the tiny chest. Heartbeat faint, slow, but there. She was breathing, shallow. Clara carried Pepper, talking to the dog the whole way. "It's okay, Pepper. The cowboy man is helping." 2 cows standing in the open, ribs showing through dull coats. No smoke from the cabin chimney. The fire had gone out. But the front porch was swept clean. Sarah Calloway lay on the floor beside the wood stove. But she was breathing, shallow, uneven, but breathing. Fight me or save her. Caleb handed Rosie to Lucy. "Your papa left you in charge of keeping them alive. Right now I'm the best chance you got at that." The axe lowered inch by inch. Hit her head on the way down. The bleeding had mostly stopped. He needed fire. Maybe 3 days if we're real careful. December, dead of winter. 3 days of wood with months of cold ahead. Mama said Papa just went to sleep and didn't wake up. But I know that ain't true. I heard Mama crying. I heard her say they killed him. Clara pulled Pepper closer. "Especially not strangers, even ones with sad eyes." "I'll be back." Sam sat up in bed. "You promise?" "What? You promise you'll come back?" Because Papa went out one morning and promised he'd come back, and he didn't. He never came back. Caleb's throat closed. His hand found the burn scar, pressed until it hurt. "I'll be back, Sam. You swear." "I swear, Sam." "You swear." "I swear." He'd had a family once. He'd failed them. He'd been 3 counties away while they burned alive. If he'd been there, if he'd stayed. Caleb stood with 1 foot in the stirrup and 1 foot on the ground. Halfway gone, halfway here, the place he'd lived for 6 years, always between leaving and staying, never choosing either. Rosie cried louder. Lucy was singing to her a hymn. Her voice cracked on every other note, but she never stopped. Jack was whispering to Sam, "It's okay, Sammy. I got you. I'm here. Ain't nobody taking us nowhere." Clara was talking to Pepper. "Don't worry, boy." He sat on the floor beside Sarah. Her breathing was stronger now, color returning to her lips. Sam climbed out of bed again, walked to Caleb, climbed into his lap without asking, put his head against Caleb's chest right over his heart, and closed his eyes. "You'll lose him, too. You lose everything you care about. That's what you do. That's who you are." He looked at the fire, at Sarah breathing on the floor, at 5 children huddled together on a bed in a cabin that was falling apart, around a family that was falling apart. He knew the cost of caring. He knew how this ended. But his hand stayed on Sam's back, and his heart kept beating, and the fire kept burning. And for the first time in 6 years, Taylor McCord was afraid, not of dying. He'd made peace with dying a long time ago. Afraid of living. Afraid of what it would cost him to care about these people. Afraid of what it would cost him to leave. Her voice was raw, hoarse, but underneath it ran something sharp enough to cut steel. Sam looked at Caleb, looked at his mother, slid off Caleb's lap, and ran to her. "I brought them back, started the fire, cleaned your wound. I didn't ask for your help. You were bleeding on the floor." Relief so enormous she couldn't hide it, couldn't control it, couldn't stop her chin from trembling for one raw second. Then she rebuilt the wall brick by brick, right in front of Caleb's eyes. He put her inside his coat against his skin. That's what saved her. Sarah's hand tightened on the poker. "So forgive me if I don't trust a drifter who walks into my house while I'm unconscious and holds my son in the dark. Your woodpile's got 3 days left. Your fences are down and your cattle are starving. You don't know the first thing about me or my family or what we've survived. The barn," she said through her teeth, "not the house. And you're gone at dawn. At dawn. I mean it, Mr. McCord, first light." Sam talks too much. Maybe. Or maybe he's scared and he doesn't understand why his mama won't tell anyone what really happened. "Get out of my house, Mr. McCord." Caleb opened the door. The cold hit him like a wall. He stepped through, pulled the door shut behind him, stood on the porch in the dark. He was real kind to us. Kind don't mean safe, Lucy. Kind don't mean he won't hurt us. Kind is just a word men use until they get what they want. Papa was kind. Sarah didn't answer that. The silence lasted so long, Caleb thought she'd fallen asleep. Then her voice came through the door. Barely a whisper, not meant for anyone to hear. "Your papa was the kindest man who ever lived, and they killed him for it. Don't you forget that. But those hands hadn't saved her. Those hands had dug through ashes too late." He closed his eyes, didn't sleep. "Your mama told me to." "Good." Guard Jack watched him tighten the cinch. Scrawny arms, chapped hands, dark circles under his eyes. Caleb turned a scout toward the road. Got to the gate. "Mr. McCord," he stopped, didn't turn around. "The fence broke last month, and 3 cattle got out, and we never found them. The barn roof leaks, the well's freezing over, and there's a man in town, a judge. Said a woman alone with 5 children in winter was a danger to them. Said the judge would place us with proper families. And Mama cries every night when she thinks we're sleeping. And I don't know what to do anymore. This wasn't his fight. He'd had a family. He'd lost them." "What are you doing?" Jack's voice caught. "Where's the axe head, Luce? What? What?" "Your axe." The head's wobbling. "I can see it from here. Where's the wedge?" "I don't. Papa kept tools in the barn. Show me. The mama said." "Your mama said? Your mama said I leave at dawn. It's past dawn. I'm still here. She can yell at me herself when she's up." Jack stared at him. Why would you stay? You don't know us." "The Parford." Jack stared at him. "Why would you stay?" Jack followed, 2 steps behind, then beside, then matching Caleb's stride, step for step. Good wood, seasoned from standing dead through the fall. Caleb swung the axe. Same way. Feet apart, back straight. He said the axe does the work if you let it. Said those trees were here before us and they'd be here after us if we let them be. Briggs Timber set his horse through him and he froze before anyone found him. Jack's voice went flat. Clinical, the way children sound when they're repeating a story they don't believe. She went to the judge. Jack laughed that there was nothing funny in it. Olson at the general store, she still sells to us, but she won't look Mama in the eye anymore. Swing by swing. The pieces fell together in Caleb's mind. Jack, did your papa keep any records, a journal, letters, anything that might show what he knew about Briggs? Caleb nodded, picked up the axe, didn't push. The boy would talk when he was ready, or he wouldn't. Trust wasn't something you demanded, it was something you earned. Swing by swing, log by log, day by day, they worked for 2 hours. Caleb chopped, Jack hauled. They built a pile twice the size of what had been there before. Caleb showed Jack how to wedge the axe head tight, how to read the grain before swinging, how to let the weight of the steel do the work. Jack learned fast. First time Caleb had seen anything close to a smile on that face. Mama says she regretted it for the first 6 months and loved him for the next 12 years. Jack's voice softened. She don't talk about him much anymore. It hurts too bad. She'd changed clothes, washed the blood from her face. The bandage on her forehead was fresh. She'd redone it herself. I didn't ask you to fill it. No, Mom, you didn't. Something that looked a lot like the first fragile thread of trust. You're being useful, making yourself necessary, showing my children what it feels like to have a man around so that when you leave, and you will leave, the hole you leave behind is bigger than the one that was there before. This family had learned to catch everything before it fell. I want nothing from you, Caleb said, and if my children start calling you anything other than Mr. McCord, you're gone that hour. They've lost one father. Caleb stood in the yard holding an armload of firewood, staring at a closed door. From inside the cabin, Kara's voice drifted through the walls, clear and bright and completely unafraid. Mama, the cowboy man is still here. I told you he had kind eyes. Pepper likes him too. And Pepper don't like nobody. Sarah's voice, tired, but with the faintest edge of something that might have been warmth, buried deep under 2 years of ice. Clara Marie Calloway, eat your breakfast and stop talking about that man's eyes. They're real nice eyes, Mama. Clara, just saying. Caleb stacked the wood on the porch, went back for more, worked until his hands bled through his gloves and his shoulders burned and his mind went quiet the way it only did when his body was working hard enough to drown out the ghosts. 3 days. He already knew 3 days wouldn't be enough. She never came out to say thank you, never brought him water. She'll be mad, but I don't care. Caleb took the jar. Thank you, Clara. You're welcome. He grabbed his Colt, moved to the barn door, peered out. 5 riders. Deputy Floyd Marsh in front on a black horse. She hadn't been sleeping. Caleb could see it in her eyes. So do I. She turned into the cabin. Lucy, Jack, get your brother and sisters. Get dressed, everybody in the main room now. Clara came next, Pepper in her arms, eyes wide but not crying. Rosie was crying in Lucy's arms, confused by the dark and the noise and the fear that filled the cabin like smoke. Underneath the armor, underneath 2 years of fighting alone, there was fear, real fear. The words hung in the air, heavy as stone. He told himself that was the reason, the snow, just the snow. Sarah dismounted, stood in the yard, looked at her home like she was seeing it for the first time. It sounded like Walter running free after a long freeze. He'd be proud of you, Caleb said. He'd be proud of all of us. A name to hold on to. Jack calls you Caleb, Clara calls you Cowboy Man, Rosie calls you Coob. He paused. But you're here, and you stayed, and you carried me in the snow, and you slept on the floor with me, and you promised you'd come back, and you did every time you did. His small hand found Caleb's scarred one, held it. Mama says family is the people who show up. You showed up, Mr. Caleb. She had one hand pressed to her mouth, tears running down her face. Not sad tears, not grief tears. I've been waiting forever. Pepper, he said it. Pepper barked. Jack didn't say anything. Jack stood with his hand on Caleb's shoulder. Not joining the HUD because he was 11 and 11-year-old boys don't do that. But not letting go either, a family that had found him anyway. The scar of hope. Then he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out the wooden doll he'd been carving for Beth 6 years ago, the one he'd never finished. Caleb carved one slow stroke. The wood curled away, clean and pale and new. "Yeah," he said. And Caleb McCord, who'd ridden into a snowstorm with 5 bullets and a dead heart, sat at a kitchen table carving a wooden doll for a little girl who called him Coob, surrounded by a family he'd almost ridden past in a home he'd almost never found. Loss and hope could share the same heartbeat. A man could carry his dead and still hold his living. Caleb McCord had been 30 seconds too late once, too late to save the family he built. But he'd been right on time for the family that built him. And he would never be late.